globally. And that's why your presence here is very critical and important for the conservation of these species. Just brief highlights of the action plan that we are reviewing. It was launched in 2020, and of course it goes up to 2030. And midterm review is due. So it was supposed, we actually in the right time. And we are happy to report that positive changes have since been registered. We have learned, and we'll get to learn more, that the numbers have actually increased, which is a good thing. But even then, some key actors have since changed legal status and or nomenclature. UWA, which was mentioned as an actor in the action plan, has now since been joined with Uganda Wildlife Authority to become one institution. Uganda Wildlife Research and Training Institute then has now become a college, and many others. And you'll find that also other actors could have revised focus. Number one, towards giraffe conservation, but others may be away from giraffe conservation. And of course, that's why we need to revise this in a bid to see that we keep it updated as we run to 2030. Just a reminder of what we had set out to do. So in the following session, we'll see how far we have gone and what actors are doing to ensure that we realize this. Number one was that critical mass of law enforcement staff in place in giraffe areas, which was responsible for UWA, Uganda Conservation Foundation, WCS. Requisite law enforcement equipment procured and deployed, UWA being a key actor, Uganda Conservation Foundation, WCS and others. Ranger posts established within key giraffe areas. Frequency of law enforcement patrols and area of coverage increased in high threat areas, spearheaded by UWA. And then number of giraffe trapped in snares significantly reduced, a responsibility that UWA has been taking on and we continue to do. Death of giraffe by snares significantly abated to almost zero. UWA with partners responsible for that. Then poaching hotspots identified and targeted patrols conducted. Of course, UWA and partners. That's an ongoing effort. And then DNA database established to provide evidence for prosecution, UWA, Uganda Police Force, and then the judiciary. Other actions, giraffe monitoring protocols in place in all key sites, UWA and partners, Giraffe Conservation Foundation, WCS, and Makerere. Then critical human and logistical capacity for the effective management of giraffe developed. UWA and other partners, Giraffe Conservation Foundation, Wildlife Conservation Society, Makerere. And then other action was giraffe population status and demography regularly updated. Tasked for UWA and partners, of course. Then ranging patterns of giraffe mapped. UWA, Giraffe Conservation Foundation, and other research institutions. Diseases affecting giraffe and other related wildlife detected and sufficiently managed. And then research on giraffe sustained across all sites, UWA and partners. Other actions included new suitable areas for expansion of giraffe range secured, giraffe translocated to approved areas, genetic diversity of established populations conducted to guide population management, and then giraffe movement and potential habitat connectivity assessed, economic benefit of giraffe assessed in key giraffe areas where giraffe have been translocated. Habitat suitability assessment conducted. Extent of invasive species and effectiveness of their control in giraffe habitats assessed. Impacts of fire on giraffe habitats assessed. And that's one research institutions. Impacts of climate change monitored and mitigated. Research institutions and Wildlife Conservation Society being responsible actors. Potential impacts of infrastructure development on giraffe assessed and mitigation measures initiated. Meteorology department. I don't know whether with the RAPEX that still exists. Knowledge, attitude, and perceptions study on giraffe conservation assessed. And then education and awareness programs enhanced. Harmonious coexistence and increased appreciation of the value of wildlife conservation across the giraffe range. And then improved public perceptions of zoo animals through education and awareness, but also breeding of giraffe in ex situ settings promoted. Having looked at all those that we set out to do for ourselves in the action plan, then we ask these questions, and these should be answered by the presentations from partners. We're asking, are we where the action plan wishes us to be by mid-term? Is there anything that we can do better? How better can we partner, collaborate for the action plan implementation going forward? And perhaps, what are the challenges that we need to find solutions to going forward? With that, I come to the end of the presentation by looking at key actors from the action plan, Ministry of Tourism, Uganda Wildlife Authority, Uganda Wildlife Research and Training College, Giraffe Conservation Foundation. All of us here in this room will answer the questions that I asked. And I thank you and wish you nice deliberations on next slide. Behind? Okay, sorry. That one? All right. Thank you so much for listening to me. And I don't expect questions. I'm only setting the ball rolling. The questions will be answered by the next presenters and our actors by showing us what they are doing and perhaps how they can do it better, how we can partner better, and to see that we implement this action plan going forward. But also in the process of reviewing, what can we review, what can we remove, what can we add. I thank you and wish you nice deliberations. Thank you so much. If I thought I didn't deserve one, but I'm happy that I have won myself a round of applause. Yes. I don't see Carol, but nonetheless we can proceed. Next on the program is Giraffe Conservation Foundation. And let's welcome Arthur to talk to us. Over to Arthur.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. So as I mentioned earlier during my introduction, my name is Arthur Muneza from the Giraffe Conservation Foundation. I work as the East Africa coordinator. So today I'll be doing two presentations. This first one is just to give an overview of the general population status, mainly from a global landscape perspective and then also to a site-specific perspective. And then later on, I'll give a talk about what we've been doing specifically as the Giraffe Conservation Foundation with our partners in Uganda to support the implementation of the Giraffe Action Plan. So to kick things off, I'd like to refer to a statement that Dr. Caroline made in the morning, that giraffes, the names have changed. So why did the names change and why is that important? I think this needs to be put in context so that we can all understand why the conservation of giraffe in Uganda is particularly important. So as of August last year, you might have heard that the IUCN now officially recognizes 4 unique species of giraffe. So there's the Maasai giraffe on the far right and on my screen here. The northern giraffe, that's the one that is here in Uganda, the reticulated giraffe, and the southern giraffe. How did that happen? First of all, there was a lot of genetic work that was done. But just because there's genetic, obviously scientists also wanted a lot of other data to support this genetic classification. So over the past few years, we've also done some scanning of skulls. So skulls were collected across the range of giraffe, and they were analyzed through using a 3D scanner, looking at some specific points on the skull, as you can see there. And the skull scanning also returned the same classification of 4 unique giraffe species. And you can see, I'm sure most of you who've been in national parks here in Uganda, you know the males have a very big median ossicon. So it was very clear that northern giraffe have a much larger median ossicon, followed by reticulated giraffe. You can see that the median ossicon there is also a bit pronounced, but it's not as pronounced in the other species like the Maasai giraffe and the southern giraffe. For the female giraffe, the median ossicon is not as pronounced in many species, but you can see for the northern giraffe, which is here, the median ossicon is quite pronounced. So now, why all this matters? Now that we know we have 4 unique species, it means that they need to be treated separately, mainly from the numbers and also the threats they face. So practically speaking, over the last 30 years or so, 35 years, southern giraffe, that's the only population that has increased significantly. If we go back 35 years in time, the numbers have gone up from about 31,000 to 68,000. This is a population that has not yet been assessed by the IUCN, but we look at the criteria, they qualify to be listed as least concern. Now, if we look at the reticulated giraffe, which mostly occurs in Kenya, Ethiopia, Somalia, they've also decreased a bit, mainly from about 36,000 to about 20,000, sorry. And then there's the Maasai giraffe, which occurs in Kenya and Tanzania. Numbers have almost halved also there, now qualifies to be listed as endangered on the IUCN red list. And now the major star of our talk today, what has brought us here, northern giraffe, and you can see that it has a very wide distribution. And numbers have decreased from about 27,000 to about 7,000 remaining in the wild. And this is a species that now qualifies to be listed as critically endangered. Now, yes, it's good to know the range. Practically speaking, these are the best estimate of numbers that we have at the moment. These were included in the report that we released last year on World Giraffe Day, what we call the State of Giraffe Report. And you can see, just as Joseph just mentioned earlier, Nubian giraffe, which is one of the 3 subspecies of northern giraffe. So there's 3 subspecies. There's the Nubian giraffe, the Kordofan giraffe, and the West African giraffe. So Uganda, by far, has almost half of the Nubian giraffe population. To the best estimates that we have at the moment, we estimate that there's about 1,700 to 2,100 Nubian giraffe in Uganda. So that's more than half. And you can see that's quite an important population. In the last 5 years, based on the surveys we've been doing, and I'll talk a bit more about that, we know that the population is increasing and is doing quite well. And I look forward to hearing more about what we've all been doing, because I know all these efforts collectively contribute to this increase. Kenya now has about 1,200 Nubian giraffe, followed by Ethiopia and South Sudan. And this is the Kordofan giraffe, of which majority of the population is found in Chad, but there's also populations in Cameroon, DRC, Central African Republic, and South Sudan. And then there's the West African giraffe, which only occurs in Niger, where the population now occurs in, there's only two populations, one in a human-dominated landscape called the giraffe zone. It's not even in a protected area, and then another small population that was reintroduced there. So luckily, since I'm giving this presentation in Uganda, I know I won't have to spend a lot of time here. We know this is where the Nubian giraffe are. And this is a result of the work that was done by UWA by reintroducing giraffe in area where they've previously gone extinct, with obviously support that we've provided them and working with them collaboratively, and then monitored these populations. So as Gladys mentioned, there was a giraffe that were initially reintroduced in Kidepo from Kenya. I wish Gladys was here, but I would like to mention that when I was there in 2022, we actually took photos of some giraffe. We ran them in a software that we called Giraffe Spotter, and we identified one giraffe that had initially been translocated. In 2022, that giraffe was still alive in Kidepo, which is amazing. So it just goes to speak about the work that is being done here. It's bearing fruits. And now giraffe are in these 5 distinct conservation areas where they're doing quite well. So part of the work that we've been doing is working with the Uganda Wildlife Authority. We have Space for Giants here, where we've been collaborating in doing long-term monitoring of these giraffe populations, because simply reintroducing giraffe or doing the translocations is not enough. We need to know now, post the translocations, are they doing well? Are they breeding? Is the population adapting well to the new environment? And this has been done through various efforts. So the gentleman there working with the UWA Rangers, that's my colleague, Dr. Michael Brown. I'm sure many of you know of him or have worked with him. He did his PhD in Murchison Falls National Park, and a lot of the data that he collected was with the UWA Rangers here. Once he finished his PhD, we then transitioned to working with Dr. Herbert Kasozi, the man in the red shirt there, who was then working with the local Ugandan students to also train them on the method that we've been using to do the monitoring. What this involves, it involves driving the accessible road network and looking at where giraffe are and taking right side photos. So why right side photos? That's because, as we all know, giraffe have unique coat patterns, and over time, if you are taking photos of one side of the giraffe and you run them through this pattern recognition software, you can get an estimate of the abundance of the population, or you can even get a total count. So I was really happy to hear some of the numbers being called out when Caroline was asking how many giraffe are here or there. And what we are seeing is exactly what you have all been seeing in the field. For some of these areas, the populations are small, so we can do a total count. Please do not be alarmed by the bars where we see 0. That just means these are the years where we did not go out to the field. It does not mean that the giraffe were not there or the population suddenly disappeared. It's just that we were not in the field. But for instance, you can see that from Kidepo, ever since we started doing the surveys, the numbers have gone up from 24 all the way to 129 giraffe right now. And we can confidently cite this number, 129, because we have photos of each and every one of these giraffes. Same to Lake Mburo. From the last surveys that we did this year, we got photos of 76 giraffes, and we've all identified them uniquely. I had someone say that there's 77, so that is good. It shows that maybe the numbers are still multiplying. These are numbers as of recently as April of 2026. So that is good news to hear. And as you can see, that the trend is always positive. In Pianupe, we only have numbers up to 2025. That's because we signed an agreement with Space for Giants for them to continue doing the surveys there, and I know they'll probably give us an update. But from the last surveys we did in 2025, we estimated that there is now 51 giraffe. I hope the numbers have gone up or maybe stayed about the same. That is always good news. In Murchison Falls, from the last surveys that we did, we know in 2016, that's the first time I participated in field exercises here in Uganda. We worked with UWA to translocate about 15 giraffe, and I know there's some other translocations that were done, but the number has now gone up to 46 giraffe, which is quite amazing that the giraffe are also doing well in that landscape. Where I'll put a bit of an asterisk maybe to these numbers, so when you see this chart here, please do not cite it as it is. Murchison Falls the National Bank of Murchison Falls is a bit more complex. That's because there's a lot of giraffes. And so when we go to the field, we usually go out for a period of about 2 weeks. And even if you're given those 2 weeks, you cannot encounter each and one of those giraffes. But as you can see, the trend has been relatively stable. And when we've gone out, we've consistently encountered at least 762 giraffe and at most 1,000 giraffe in one field expedition of about 2 weeks. So we take these figures and we run them into a mark recapture model. We use the Cormack-Joly-Sieber model to model now the population abundance of giraffe. To the best of our estimates, we estimate that there is about 2,100 giraffe remaining in the northern bank of Murchison Falls National Park. That's the single most important population of Nubian giraffe anywhere in the world. So that's almost 50% of the global population of Nubian giraffe, which is quite important. So from that, we've been trying to at least produce these reports that we can share and provide a snapshot of what's going on. The last one we did, I believe, was 2023. We are still running the models for Murchison Falls North, but we have the data and we are very much happy to share. But as you can see, the numbers have been going up. Since 2015, we know for sure that giraffe numbers have gone up by at least 20%. And this is really due to the various efforts that we've all put in. Obviously, people were spurred by the launch of the Giraffe Conservation Action Plan, and this has motivated many people to do a lot of work. So I'm really happy to be here and to hear what you're all doing. And this has presented many, many opportunities, and this is what I'll be talking about in my next talk, where we've supported translocations and looked at the success of these translocations. We've supported training of students. Michael, who was just here, has just left. He graduated via our support that we provided for him. We've supported the training of vets, which I'll talk a bit more about later. But there are many, many opportunities to really conduct good conservation research and management research that can inform the management of giraffe in Uganda and beyond, as I showed in the beginning of the presentation. And this is really informed by our ethos that really protecting giraffe and any other wildlife, especially in Africa, can be done by especially engaging people who share their space with wildlife. Because as we know, when we are protecting wildlife, we're asking people to sacrifice a bit of their land. And this is very, very critical and important. So thank you for your time. And I'll take any questions that you might have as we begin these deliberations to look at what has been done towards the implementation of the Giraffe Conservation Action Plan. Thank you.
Ah, that's insightful. Another round of applause. Some good work. Yes, if you have any questions, any comments, this is the time. Who can help me move the mic around? You can start with, he raised his hand first, then Captain second, and then someone in the white shirt. Thank you.
I think you had a question to Dr. Gladys about, or you made a comment in your slide. Could you go back to the Kidepo map? Yeah.
Okay, this giraffe is still alive. So you said one of the giraffes is still alive. You did through the DNA. Yes.
And we did get a report from KWS when they did the transportation of giraffe from Lake Nakuru National Park to Kidepo. And there's one giraffe that had a very nice right-side profile. So we took that photo and ran it into our database, and then ran it against the photos of all giraffes that we've encountered when we were doing surveys in Kidepo National Park.
Yes.
And that returned a positive match. So that was very fantastic news for us. And actually, the giraffe was a female giraffe that also was with a calf. We don't know for sure whether that was her calf, but that was very positive news for us. That was in 2022.
That's wonderful. Yeah. And she's quite, because we translocated them in
97.
97, so that was quite, Yeah, so that's 25 years later.
Yes.
Yeah. So how long did giraffe live actually? Around 30 years?
Around 30 years, yes.
So she's an old lady?
Very, very old, yeah. But still doing well in the wild, which is amazing.
Yeah, no, I'd like to go up there and see her.
Okay.
Maybe next time you guys are going up, I'll join you.
All right, wonderful. We'd be happy to share the database that we have. So if you go out there and take right-side photos, please do share the photos. We can run against the existing database and tell you this one is this one, this one is this one, etc. So we have done that for all giraffe in Uganda, which is something that we've not been able to achieve anywhere else.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Maybe we'll have a set of questions which are not, I've seen counted like 4 hands, then he can answer Tego. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that presentation. And my question goes to the giraffes in Murchison Falls. Is it that you have concentrated on the northern bank and we do not have any data that we can use? I'm in tourism, so the biggest question is always asked that why don't we see giraffes in the southern bank? So.
Thank you, Doctor. A very good presentation. But it also tickles old conservationists like us, like me. Like I told you, I started conservation in 1975 as a ranger. And when I started, there was a lot of turmoil. It was during Idi Amin's time. And the survival of a ranger and the wildlife was critical. I almost lost my life in Kidepo. I was hammered by SPLA. There was a fighting force. And I was only saved by a termite mound. However, Doctor, what shocks me is the sudden drop of giraffes, the Ugandan giraffe, from 20,000 to 7,000. And I don't know whether the trend is even getting worse, according to your assessment, because if like that thing is it scares me. Because from 27 to 7 is a sharp drop, and it is very scary to some of us who are conservationists. What are the main causes, and what can we do to reverse the trend? And I would like UWA to note, Richard, you and your team, Makombo, John, Carol, you see that trend is very threatening, scaring. You yourself should do an evaluation and see how best Gladys is. Take advantage of Gladys. Can we enhance translocation as a means of boosting up populations? Now that we know that in places like Katonga, places like Mburo, they are doing very well. If the carrying capacity is able, can we do more translocation to boost up the populations? But the question to you, Doctor, is what are the main causes and what can we do about it? Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, Arthur and UWA for your presentation on the giraffes. As a tourist guides, we are very, very concerned, and it's very hurting to be in the national park, especially Murchison Falls, and we are constantly seeing these giraffes on snares. On my private engagements with UCF on their Facebook page, the question has always been, can't you find the root cause of where these snares are from and find a way how you can really stop these snares from getting into the parks? I'm happy that you have talked about poaching hotspots, patrols identified. This brings me also to another question is, if you have identified these places or identifying some of these places, why aren't you putting, increasing on the manpower, on the patrols to ensure that the numbers come down to almost zero? I know poaching is a big problem and it's not easy to combat it overnight, but with increased manpower, there could be something done. To Arthur, thank you for that information. How can we, as tourist guides, access this information, which is general knowledge, for us to consume as guides, and also to be able to provide some of these informations on the giraffes, especially when we are on game drives? Lastly, from the outlook, from the planned outlook, all looks rosy at the presentation, but I think there's still a lot that needs to be done on conservation.
Thank you so much. I work in a protected area that received translocated animals in, that is the zebra, impalas, and topi. And my question is on the software for identifying the unique identifier for the graphs. Is it specific for graphs or other species? Because I normally find the identifying zebras also a challenge.
Thank you so much for that presentation. I am intrigued, and I would like maybe to clarify or to allay my fears. In Murchison Falls, the northern belt, then also in Kidepo, we have native species which are problematic. Is there any pattern we see with giraffe preferences of habitats that where there are more presence of, say, borassas or Harrisonia absinica, the giraffes are tending to avoid such areas, or they prefer those areas, and could that be a threat for these giraffes, that maybe the suitable habitat is being colonized by these native problematic species, and so we may also need to pay attention to the habitat. Thank you.
Okay, so I think maybe I can answer some of the first batch of questions. Thank you all for those questions. I think they're really, really great to spur on the discussion. Maybe to put things in context, I'll start with the Honorable Captain's question. So this slide here that I was showing, this is just from a global perspective. You can see that here these numbers refer to the northern giraffe as the main species. So the northern giraffe has the 3 subspecies, the Kordofan, West African, and the Nubian giraffe, as I mentioned. And if you look at their range, I think these are some of the most difficult places to work in. So I would say the main reason for the decline here, this was mainly due to poaching, illegal killing, and civil unrest. So this is where we are talking about countries like Niger. When we did the first ever translocation in 2018, we needed the support of the army from Niger and also support from the French army just to do the translocation because of the threat posed by Boko Haram. You look at these other countries, if you're going to work in Chad, Central African Republic, South Sudan, these are all challenging areas where security is quite a big concern and poaching there still persists. Even if you when even just to do a basic survey is quite challenging. So that's why we're seeing these numbers where numbers have gone down. Now, in places, this is not to say that it's all doom and gloom, that nothing can be done. A perfect example is actually Uganda. We've all heard of the challenges that were posed by the LRA and CONI. Now, when the security conditions were improved, what we saw is the immediate rebound of all wildlife species. And I think that should not be taken lightly, because these are landscapes that are globally important to protect wildlife. So that's quite consistent. And I'm sure in some of these areas, a good example I can give here is also, another one is Chad. That's another landscape where it has one of the biggest populations for Kordofan giraffe. When African Parks was given the rights to manage Zakuma, we are also seeing numbers going up. So there's a lot of work that can be done, and it's mainly the people like us, people in this room, who are involved in making sure that this wildlife is secured. There was also the question about giraffe in the southern bank of Murchison Falls versus the ones in the north. I think there it's just a question of abundance and density. So it's not that we care mostly about the ones in the north. The north, some sections are a bit more open where you have more tourist activities, so you are more likely to see giraffe much more easily. You go to the south, it's much more dense and a bit more difficult to see giraffe. But from the numbers we've shown, you can see clearly that giraffe numbers even in the south, same habitat, they are going up. It's just that their detection is a bit more difficult and challenging, but they're there. When we do the surveys with UWA, we do work with them to go to those areas, and we are seeing giraffe. It's just that you have to work harder for it, unfortunately. So as a tourist guide, if you want to show people giraffe, the North Bank, best bet, just because there are many more giraffe there, it's a bit more open, and it's easier to see. There was then the question about snaring, the root cause, and trying to look at, can we increase manpower? I am not an employee of UWA, but what I'll just say that this is a very, very difficult question. We've worked with UWA to do weekly snare removal patrols up to September of 2023. I know we've paused that activity. But when that work was being done, you know, you send people out, they remove snares in one area. Once you're done with that, the poachers will come in and put it in another landscape. You go to that landscape, they put up somewhere else. And one of the main challenges there, and I'll be happy to be corrected, is that, you know, there's the section that is covered by Lake Albert, so people can get access to the park. And that makes it difficult. The snaring problem is one that will always last, just because people have access to these snares, but UWA, from my experience, has done its level best to remove the snares. And when we were supporting the snare removal patrols, we saw that it's not only giraffes that are affected, but many other species. And I know that UWA has invested quite a lot in trying to remove these snares. It's not an easy thing. Now, trying to look at the root cause, from the studies that we've done working with other people, we know that obviously poverty is a big driver for this, and also sustenance. People are going into the park, putting up snares, trying to catch maybe a small animal, but when you leave snares in the landscape, they can catch anything. So it's not that they are targeting, you know, this giraffe specifically or one big elephant. That's because even getting it out of the park is quite a challenge. That's because, you know, there are random patrols being done and you never know what might happen, but it's quite a challenge. There was also the question of how can guides access a lot of this information that I've presented. A lot of this information is actually free on our website. So on our website, we have a lot of these resources, reports that we've provided, and you can get access to ranging from the latest numbers, anything you want to learn about giraffe ecology and biology, we have it on our website. If you're interested in information about our education conservation programs, we have conservation education material that's available to download. At one point, we did have an education poster in Uganda. I think we haven't updated it since 2019 thereabout, but we did work with someone here to translate a lot of the information that we had in the Luganda language just to gain access to that. And I'll talk a bit more about our conservation education program in my other presentation. So all this information is available, so please go to our website. It's giraffeconservation.org, And there is a education material section where you can get a lot of these updated information. There was then the question of pattern recognition software. So currently we use a software called the Giraffe Spotter. You can tell by the name it's very specific to giraffe. But the premise is the same. It's simply an updated version of another software called Hot Spotter. That software called Hot Spotter, I don't think it's been updated for a while, but if you're interested in trying to identify unique zebra or any other species that has unique code patterns that are unique to each individual, you can use that software to monitor that population. My colleague that I talked about, Michael Brown, he actually did his master's studying zebra, and he used Hot Spotter. So that same software can be used to do that same monitoring if you are very keen and interested in that. Lastly, there was the question about habitat preference and problematic species in Kidepo and was it Lake Mburo? In Murchison Falls South. To the best of our knowledge, we have not seen this problematic species having any impact on the distribution of giraffe. Using tracking data from Murchison Falls, giraffes seem to be spread throughout the park, but we've seen a bit of seasonal migration. So the migration that we've seen, the giraffe moving from one side to the other, was mainly tied to the changes of seasons in Murchison Falls, so not the distribution of the problematic species. So we don't think that that could be an issue. Similarly, in Kidepo, we've seen, I think there's an image in my other presentation, we've seen giraffes spend a lot of time in the Narus Valley, and they do move in and out. So they're not being limited in one specific area, mainly due to the distribution of these habitats. What I will do, he's run away, but our colleague who was here, Michael Mutebi, he did his master's on the habitat preference of giraffe. I think it was in Lake Mburo, and part of it was in Murchison Falls also. So I know he was a student. When you see him, hunt him down, ask for his thesis, ask those difficult questions. But those are some of the questions that we'd definitely be interested in pursuing, trying to look at the impact of these problematic species, because we know this can be a serious challenge if not identified well in advance. Thank you. Oh, there's a question from John.
Arthur, I'm very sorry I came a little bit late. I've been on an interview. Yes. But I saw the numbers. If you can just go back to that. Those estimates. Yes. These are for when?
These 2025.
2025.
Yes.
And that's my problem, because me, I know that I'm managing actually more giraffes than what you are reflecting here. So how comes that you have 1,900? Me, I'm in 2,500 above. So I don't know. How did you get this number?
Yes.
And why is it that they are fewer than what I have?
So that's a very good question. I will say that the discrepancy there is mainly from the different methodologies that we use. So let me go through the presentations again. I won't go through all of them, but I'll just try to explain a bit. So in some of the smaller populations, we have a good handle on how many giraffe are there. So we know the Kidepo, Pianupe, Murchison Falls South. The main challenge where we will have a discrepancy is here in Murchison Falls North. To the best of my knowledge, I think UWA you used, was it total counts or sample counts? Sample counts, yeah. So we also use sample. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yes. Yes. So on our side, we are using photographic mark recapture surveys, and then we are modeling the data using the Cormack-Joly-Siba model. And that's where the discrepancy is coming in. So we have
because
these,
what I know, Arthur,
yes,
is the southern part of Murchison Falls is a little bit thicker.
Yes.
If you actually don't go on ground, you will not see much.
Yes.
So if you're using a method that's not penetrating the forest,
yes,
then those low total trees, you might not see much. You go to Chobe.
Yes.
Chobe from the sky, you see zero.
Yeah.
But as soon as you go on ground,
yes,
you actually see so many giraffes.
Yes.
Like recently, we worked on the habitat in Chobe, and you cannot believe it.
You won't see them.
You can't believe it. There are so many giraffes around there. So many.
So maybe to allay the fears, so let me put it like this. For Murchison Falls South, we've, at least to the best of my knowledge, we've counted all of the giraffes there. And we know that they're in the 40s. What I would like to show here, last time when we did the modeling, we came to about 2,420. So that was 2023. When we rerun the model again, we had a lower estimate, but it was still within the estimate here. So if you look at the estimate that we have for Uganda, the upper limit is still 2,100. And I believe the discrepancy that we have is mainly due to the survey events, where we are capturing maybe fewer individuals than what's there, then we model the data. I do believe that for us, we have data that we feel is closer to what you have, and that's because cumulatively, ever since we started doing the surveys, we have the capture history of about 3,000 unique individuals. Now, those 3,000 individuals, some of them we know they might have died, they might not have survived, and that's what the model is doing, so it's trying to correct for that. So that's why we feel that this is the best range estimate, but of course, this does not mean that it's the one and only final methodology that should be used. So the figures also from UWA can be incorporated. And I'll also actually take this opportunity to put on my other hat. I'm part of the IUCN Giraffe and Okapi Specialist Group. Right now, we are trying to reassess the conservation status of the IUCN Red List status of all the 4 unique species of giraffe. And any data actually should go in there. So if the number was included in the recently released biodiversity resource report, then we'll put it in there and then come up with a figure that is somewhere in the middle. Yeah, yeah.
So me as a manager, if you come up with your own numbers,
yeah, yeah.
Me as a manager, I'm telling you, this is the number I have.
Yeah.
Then there is a conflict.
What I will say is at least they are not too far apart. So that's always the good thing. So we're working within the same range. And this is something that we've seen in many landscapes where we've worked. Sometimes we get a higher estimate, sometimes we get a lower estimate, but I know that it's still within the range that we are working with. And we were better off getting a higher estimate than a lower one. Yes.
Sorry, thank you, Arthur. When it came to Uganda, when I read your report, I think you were doing even selective censuses at that time. Because when I came in, you had not been going to Kidepo, for example.
Yes, yes.
You were very selective until I told you, I'm not going to allow another census until you cover all of the landscapes that we have in our MOU with you.
Yes.
So you need to make it clear that even this number, it was, I think you did a selective count. It's not representative of the Ugandan population.
Yes, thanks, Caroline, for that addition. I will say that maybe selective does not also reflect the conditions on the ground at the time. I think, so if we go to, so there were some years where we did not go. So 2022 was the last time we were there, and then it took us another 3-4 years before we went back. The main reason for that was also that some of these surveys, it's not only a decision that we make on our own whether to go to Kidepo or not. I believe we had a meeting with UWA management at headquarters, and we discussed whether to go there or not, because also safety is a concern. And so there are times where we were told maybe it's not the best time. Some of you are here also. I know there were some issues that happened in Kidepo that made it a bit challenging. So that was the main driver for us not to go there or support anyone to go there, because obviously in some of these areas you understand that there are some risks that come with going to to do these surveys. And that's because when you're doing surveys, sometimes you go to areas that are not the touristy areas. You know, you have to go to places where you are likely to encounter giraffe, and there the safety might not always be guaranteed. And that's why we take the approach of always working with UWA to understand the situation on the ground and getting the approvals to go there. And that might not always work for the best.
Okay.
Okay, members, Arthur has another presentation, so he's still here. I beg, maybe some of the questions could be answered in that second presentation, isn't it? Sorry? So I beg that he takes us to the second presentation, and then if your question is not answered in that presentation, you can ask it, and he'll answer. Let's try to, because we have a few minutes to lunch, so let's try to be faster. Meanwhile, we'll have another presentation from Professor Charles Masembe after this. After this, yes. I hope it won't be a long one, this one.
No, it's 10 slides. So it's, but Gladys, just to quickly answer you, it's because we had supported a community member to go out there, and they did not really go into the thick areas where giraffe are. So that was the situation. And then when we started getting now a scientist, you can see that now we get to see the situation on the ground. Yeah, so now, quickly transitioning to my other talk. Obviously, for us, we have a vested interest in supporting the implementation of the Giraffe Conservation Action Plan. We worked with UWA on this. I was there in the workshop in 2017, where we wordsmithed a lot of things to come up with the strategic objectives. In the morning, we were taken through the strategic objectives. So I tried to tailor my presentation in looking at what we've been doing that mirror what was highlighted in those 5 strategic objectives. So since the plan was implemented, again, as I mentioned, as GCF, we supported to the development of the UWA GCF mobile vet team, which conducted weekly snare sweeps until September of 2023. And these vet team actually desnared more than 590 animals, which was quite impressive, but that shows the magnitude of the work. I think there was a question that came about, can we increase the manpower? So you can see that it's lots of animals, and it's not just giraffe. I think it was about 15 different species that were desnared by the team. We provided technical support for studies that mapped the densities of snares in Murchison Falls and mapped the hotspot areas. We provided support to Snares to Wares, that is the organization, the CBO that was led by Dr. Tutilo Mudumba, to sensitize the community on the effects of snares and then repurpose these same snares to develop wire art. And obviously we've provided a lot of support that goes into reducing the proportion of giraffe killed illegally. So we provided ropes, gloves, we provided a truck for translocation, which has been used for other wildlife species. And this was a way of supporting UWA to do their mandate in terms of making sure that patrols can be done and work can be done to reduce the proportion of giraffe illegally killed. In the second strategic objective, which is the one based on science and also looking at how can research and monitoring be used in protecting giraffe populations, we've been doing giraffe monitoring in Uganda since 2014, and we now have a protocol that's established. And this is one that is adapted for Earth Ranger and Giraffe Spotter, and we've developed a giraffe database for all giraffe populations in Uganda, as I mentioned. Dr. Herbert Kasozi and Michael Brown and myself, we've trained UWA staff in using this protocol. I'd be happy to hear from some of the rangers here who might have gone to the field with Michael Brown and Kasozi, whether you've actually received this training and whether you've worked with them in developing these tools. What I do know for sure was that we've trained students. I was part of the review committee for Michael Mutebi. I reviewed his dissertation. So this is part of the work that goes into this. The UWA capture team also visited our headquarters in 2019 for training on on wildlife capture and mobilization, which is part of capacity building. There's samples that were collected throughout Uganda that are now analysis is ongoing in Scotland to assess the genetic diversity of giraffe populations. There was concern about the genetic relatedness and the genetic richness of species because people are concerned about inbreeding of these populations that have been translocated. So the analysis there is ongoing. Then there's obviously some publications that came out. I talked about the seasonal movement that was published by Dr. Brown in 2020 as part of his PhD. And then we've also supported looking at habitat suitability, for instance, for Ajai and also for other areas before translocations were done. As part of this work also, we've supported the training of Dr. Joshua Lubega and also Dr. Crispus Singoma, who've attended our wildlife capture training course in Namibia, which is a course that was set up mirroring the one that of Malilangwe in Zimbabwe, but ours, it's more geared towards young African wildlife vets that are just starting their careers, because we know this is a real need. We've heard stories from Joshua where maybe he will be in Murchison Falls and is called up at 2 a.m. to go and respond to something very far away, and he has to do it because that's his job. But now if you have more people to assist with that, it will make the work easier. So that's the main reason for having such a training. With our support, obviously, we've published many articles with UWA staff, for instance, the giraffe skin disease work. Gladys, you'll be happy to know that from our findings, we saw that it's a staphylophilarial worm. So that's what's causing the lesions. The work that is remaining is now the collection of the flies, because that is the bit that's remaining to fully understand the full cycle of the disease. But a lot of the work that we've done, we've published. We've published papers looking at the impacts of snares and whether the snares and giraffe skin disease are affecting the giraffe gait and locomotion. So we have 2 papers, and now we are looking at another paper that's coming out of the University of Glasgow. We've worked with Dr. Kasozi, as I mentioned, to mentor and train students, mainly in Makerere, from Makerere University. But we'd be happy to look at other places where we can partner with students to look at what studies are actually interesting in doing to enhance resilience. Obviously, this is the one that was relating to translocations. We've talked about the translocations that happened. GCF provided financial support to move giraffe from Murchison Falls to Lake Mburo, Kidepo, Pianupe. And we did attach GPS trackers to look at how giraffe were adapting to these new landscapes. And as you can see, they are spending quite a lot of time in the Narrows Valley there, but they move quite a lot within the park, which is quite interesting. As part of the work also, we've been doing regular monitoring of the giraffe, trying to look at how they are adapting, and that's trying to see that, making sure that the giraffe populations in these new landscapes are increasing. I mentioned that we published the work by Michael Brown looking at the seasonal migration, but at the same time, the movement data have also been added into the Global Atlas of Ungulate Migration database, which is a database that's global, looking at how species are moving within their landscapes. From the preliminary data that we have from the genetic richness that's going on, in Uganda, at least the results show that there's good genetics in the giraffe population here, and the inbreeding factor is very low. So that shows that translocations, if they keep happening at the rate they are happening, the populations will be resilient and they will not suffer any inbreeding effects. At least that's what the preliminary results are showing. So I hope not to get any questions on inbreeding. but please do feel free to ask. For the 4 strategic objectives, this one was relating to arresting and reversing the current, the quality and size of giraffe habitats. We've not done a lot in this strategic objective, but we have I've provided habitat suitability reports for Ajai and Pianupe just before translocations. From the data that we've gotten on giraffe movement, we've also worked with the University of East Anglia to sort of develop a giraffe-specific map and looking at how giraffe will adapt to climate change effects that might happen in the future. So this will help us determine whether climate change can be an issue for giraffe in Uganda or not. And so from the models, we know there are some areas that will not suffer any effects, whereas in some areas there might be issues. We've also, from the tagging data, we're trying to understand whether infrastructure is having an impact on giraffe. And I'm sure for most of you here who've worked in Murchison Falls, that is quite a big concern. The 5th objective was looking at enhancing community involvement to facilitate education and awareness. Our main partners on this were UWA, UWA, Snares to Wares, Giraffe, and a Giraffe Environment and Research Community Project in Lake Mburo. So we previously supported these programs to run World Giraffe Day events as a celebration of World Giraffe Day. Since 2022, we've provided about 750 nature workbooks to UWEC, gear. So this is a photo from the last batch of nature workbooks we sent. They were received by the now ED of UWA, who was then at UWEC. And this was a means for us to provide education material that can be used to raise awareness on giraffe conservation. So as I was saying, a lot of these materials are available online on our website. So if you want to download and print them, please do feel free to print them for free. If you do not have the resources to print them, please do get in touch with me and we can look at how we can provide support for printing, or we ship them from Nairobi and then we worry about customs later because that's always a big question. We've provided support for Snares to Wares to work, to show films about conservation and also engage the community about repurposing snares, which was a way for us to reduce the the availability of snares. So that's it. As I was mentioning, this is our main ethos, where we want to involve people in giraffe conservation, and I do invite you all to be a voice for giraffe. So I guess I'll pass on the mic to the next person to come and talk about what they've done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Arthur and the Giraffe Conservation Foundation. Do we have any questions? Or we have exhausted them?
Not that one. Next. That giraffe can only be saved in Africa by the people who share their space with them. GCF, I have a problem with you people, our partners. And I want us to collaborate. Whereas GCF is able to support giraffe monitoring, another partner wants to come in and do the same, yes, and hide the information. What is the problem? You people, me, I'm collaborating with you, but you people, you cannot collaborate with each other.
Thank you, John. That's always a good question. I will say this, and I can say it for a fact. We've never posed a problem with that. The problem is always on the other side. Isn't that true? So, that side that shall not be named.
Thank you, Arthur.
Yes.
Yesterday, was it yesterday or the other day? Michael told us about social groups in giraffes. They seem to be matriarchal. I don't know the mating dynamics in giraffes. Could you don't you think there is a problem? You are talking about inbreeding, but I was suspecting that there could be inbreeding in these populations. That's why some of these diseases are persisting. And these diseases, are they seen in other parts of Africa where we have